Olá, pessoal. Hello, everyone. We're going to have our talk in English, but I'm going to start in Portuguese just to say hi. Vou começar a nossa conversa em português só para falar oi. Já vi alguns dos meus alunos aqui, a Bia Pelicas, a Patrícia, bastante gente. Boa tarde, pessoal. Boa tarde a todos. É um prazer tê-los aqui comigo, conosco. Nossos convidados já estão aqui ansiosos para compartilhar as informações com vocês. E esse é um evento do Laboratório de Letramento Acadêmico da USP, do LAC, a nossa celebração de 10 anos. Nós estamos tendo eventos ao longo deste ano, provavelmente teremos mais alguns eventos no mês de janeiro e fevereiro. E esse é mais um dia de celebração, mais um evento de celebração, onde nós conversaremos um pouquinho mais sobre bolsas de estudos. Como os nossos convidados são brasileiros, nós temos uma convidada argentina e um convidado colombiano, nós vamos manter a nossa conversa em inglês, que é a nossa língua franca, a nossa língua global, ok? We're here again to celebrate LAC's 10th anniversary. The idea of this roundtable is for all the participants to know more about scholarships and opportunities abroad and within Brazil. And for us to make sure that you know that everyone has a real chance to get scholarships. This is true. É verdade esse bilhete. People tend not to apply to certain scholarships because they think that they won't get it, that it's too hard. So therefore, our guests will share with all of us the scholarships they got, how was the process, how the process was, and how writing in English helped them with it. If you have any questions, please join our presentation through the chat. We want this to be interactive. Se você tiver perguntas, you can ask your question in Portuguese. Pode fazer sua pergunta em português, pode fazer sua pergunta em espanhol, pode fazer sua pergunta em inglês. É importante que vocês perguntem, participem, interajam e tirem bastante informação dessa nossa conversa, ok? So without further ado, I would like to show you all the participants first. We're going to be all together in this first moment. I just want to introduce them to you, and then we're going to start our talk. So hello, Jesús, Rony.
Hi, Daniela.
Hello, everyone.
Estudos.
Valentina and Thiago.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to have you here. I told you before, and I'm going to tell you right now how happy I am to put this event together with such intelligent, smart, talented people. I'm so happy to have you all here. And I want everyone to get to know you guys, right? So I don't know if you want to introduce yourselves quickly. I do have your bio here to introduce each one of you, but I don't know if you want to just say hi to our audience real quick before we start with the actual presentation, right? We have Jesús here. Jesús is currently in Colombia. He's a university professor. Rony Ron-Ren, also, he's here in Brazil from Rio, right, Rony? You're laughing because I love saying your name.
Yeah.
He's from PUC-Rio. I'm going to further introduce him. We have Valentina. Valentina is a brilliant student, a PhD candidate studying at UCSB, California, but she's originally from Argentina. And we have Thiago Nascimento, right? Thiago is from Brazil. Nascimento, yeah, I'm sorry. Thiago Nascimento, he's from Brazil. And he's currently working at UFLA, right? University of Lavras. And he's going to share lots of good info with us. So can we get started with Jesús? Do you want to say something before we start?
Oh, yes. Simply to thank you for organizing this marvelous event. I'm really delighted to be able to see you again under more favorable circumstances now, because we met in the US during the pandemic. Now, well, everything is behind our backs, and we're really happy to see how everyone's academic careers have been moving on. So really, really happy to be here. Thank you so much, and welcome everyone.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay,
Yes.
So let's start with Jesús, okay? Jesús is going to share his experience abroad. Let me tell you guys about Jesús real quick. His name is Jesús Guerra-Lyons, and he holds a PhD in language sciences from the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. He finished in 2021, and he currently works as an assistant professor at the Department of Spanish of Universidad del Norte in Colombia. His research covers the areas of functional linguistics, language pedagogy, and critical literacy. He teaches courses on discourse analysis and functional grammar at the master's and undergraduate degree levels. Welcome, Jesus. The floor is all yours. We want to hear everything
Thank you,
about
Daniela.
scholarships.
Thank you so much for that nice presentation, and again for organizing this marvelous event. I think for us as Latin Americans, it is really important to get together and share experiences of applying to overseas programs. Something I'd like to highlight from what you said at the beginning and you were introducing the event is that everyone can get it, and really everyone can get it as long as there is awareness of the opportunities, as long as there is interest, and as long as timely decisions are made regarding where to apply, how to apply. So I'd like to focus my presentation. Let me see if I share my slides. So as you mentioned in my introduction, I am a graduate from the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. I graduated in 2021, and that's why I thought it would be nice to take advantage of this event to tell you about scholarship opportunities specifically in the Asia-Pacific region. So I'm going to be telling you a little bit about my story as a PhD student in Hong Kong. I will be giving you some tips, some recommendations as to the various scholarship programs available in this region of the world. So something that happens to us as Latin Americans is that when it comes to study opportunities abroad, we mostly look to North America and to Europe. And of course, that's natural because those are the regions of the world where we receive the most cultural influences. Rarely, as Latin Americans, do we look at the other side of the world, the other side of the world in which there are fascinating millenary cultures, but also in which there is a strong, solid set of universities, there is a strong academic scene, and it is important for us as Latin Americans to also have a step in this region of the world, which in recent decades has been gaining more and more protagonism, more centrality in the global scene and in the global academic activity. So one of the main reasons why we should be looking at the Asia-Pacific region is the amazing wealth of scholarship opportunities available to international students in countries like Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore. These territories may not be in the first at the top of the list of application opportunities for us as Latin Americans, mainly because we see them as distant cultures, or mainly because we are not so aware of the academic environment in these countries. But for example, you can take a look at this list. This is only a list of selected scholarship opportunities in these countries. Scholarships like the Taiwan ICDF program, incredibly generous, the Global Career Scholarship, the Lee Chiang Graduate Scholarship. All of these give you the opportunity to pursue fully funded MA and PhD programs in highly competitive, highly ranked universities around the world. For example, this is one program that I got into contact with, the Hong Kong Fellowship Scheme. It is now receiving applications. It can be considered one of the most generous scholarship programs around the world. It gives you a stipend for 3 years of up to 130,000 US dollars to pursue full-time PhD programs at Hong Kong universities. between 3 and 4 years. One important thing is that unlike in other areas of the world, like in the United States, you're not supposed to do TA work, too much TA work or too much assistantship work. You can fully devote yourself to the program. And as a PhD graduate, I can tell you time is gold. You want to devote as much time as possible to thesis writing. So this program in particular is incredibly generous. Also, it gives you opportunities to travel abroad. I myself did not receive this, but I received a studentship from the university in Hong Kong where I studied. But I know international students who received this scholarship and were able to not only study full time with this very generous stipend, but they were also able to get funding to travel around the world. For example, in 2020, I was able to get support to travel to UCSB Santa Barbara as part of an exchange program called Attachment Program, which is offered to Hong Kong University students. So this is just to give you an example of how generous these scholarships can be and the little they expect in return from you in terms of work. So besides this amazing offer of study abroad opportunities in the Asia-Pacific region, what are other advantages that we can consider? Well, for one thing, the Asia-Pacific region characterizes itself by having a large variety of top-ranking universities, some of which are located within the top 100 universities in the world. 20, I think, last time I checked in the QS ranking, 20 of the world's best universities are located in the Asia-Pacific region, mostly in Hong Kong, South Korea, Japan. So that's a great reason to look to this side of the world for potential academic advancement opportunities. The generous and varied offer of scholarship funding is another powerful reason. The fact that these universities are EMI in the English medium instruction also helps a lot. One of the main concerns people have when they think about Asia as a potential study venue is the language barrier. But for the most part, Asian universities offer most of their instruction, if not all of their instruction, in English. So that should not be any limitation for you. And this is one area of the world where Latino applicants might have an edge. Since there aren't so many applications from Latin American countries, there is huge interest in adding the Latino ingredient to the university experience there. And in general, Asian cultures have a lot of interest and curiosity about Latin American culture. So that's another reason why you might have a competitive edge in this particular area. Not to mention, of course, the vibrant cultural experience that you get out of living in an Asian culture. I myself lived for 3.5 years in Hong Kong, and I can tell you it was a life-changing experience in terms of global outlook, in terms of understanding how different cultures around the world can encounter in melting pots outside the United States or Europe. So certainly the cultural experience is a great reason to apply. And if you are into learning different languages, you could also take advantage of your stay in Asia to brush up on Mandarin Chinese, on Japanese, or whatever language whatever it is, the language of your interest. So what do you need to do if you want to apply to one of these scholarships? Well, first of all, you need to identify the scholarship program of your interest. What are its requirements? what are the different advantages it offers to you. Then you need to make a decision as to which one to apply to, because the steps can be different, the requirements can differ. Once you have located the scholarship program of your interest, you need to prepare a strong research proposal and statement. So the research proposal is the document where you tell your potential funders of the research program that you will be undertaking through MA or PhD supervision. Getting a competitive TOEFL or IELTS score is definitely a must, and not only for applications in Asia, but all over the world. Once you have those preparations ready, you need to contact a potential supervisor in one of the universities you're interested in. Usually supervisors are quite forthcoming. They will let you know if they are interested in supervising your research, or they will redirect you to a potential supervisor. So this is typically one of the simplest parts of the process, as long as you have a strong research proposal. And once all of those steps are ready, you need to apply till you get it. Some people are lucky enough and they get it in their first applications. Others have to be more insistent till they get it. In my own experience, getting the scholarship took me around 1.5 to 2 years. I applied to different programs in Asia, but also in other parts of the world. And when I found, or when I received the opportunity of doing my PhD in Hong Kong, I didn't think twice about it. But you really need to be prepared to insist and apply. And once you get it, you should not leave the visa, ticket, and accommodation arrangements for the last minute. They can be quite cumbersome sometimes, but once you get it, you'll be really happy to do all of that. So how does writing help? How does writing help throughout all this process? Well, it should be obvious that strong academic writing is the key ingredient between a competitive and a not so competitive research statement. So in this very tight competition for scholarships, you want to have the edge of good academic writing. But sometimes it is assumed that it's really a matter of having good academic skills. Sometimes it's also a matter of being resourceful and using available opportunities for revision of your work. Your university might have a writing center that you might submit your proposal to, and it can give you useful recommendations to make it stronger. You can also talk to one of the professors at your university. They will be happy to comment on your proposal. The more people comment on your work, the better chances it'll have to be an award-winning proposal. During the actual postgraduate degree, you will see that writing will be the main part of your daily routine. You need to write as soon as you get up, write throughout the morning, write in the afternoon. It is really a writing intensive experience. And also, if you're a good writer, if you develop a good academic writing skills, you will be more emotionally resilient to the whole experience, because it's also, there's a lot of pressure on you all the time to publish, to produce your research, to attend conferences. So developing good academic writing skills is going to help you throughout the process. And maybe I'd like to begin closing my presentation by mentioning that not only academic writing is necessary, but also strong professional communication. The language you use to write to the supervisor, the language you use in your application can also make a difference. So make sure to also work on your professional communication skills. That's all for my presentation now, but I really look forward to your questions. I would also be happy to support any of you who is looking to the Asia-Pacific region as a potential venue for postgrad studies. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for your amazing talk. And man, I do have questions here. I'm going to take all the questions to the end. I want to encourage everyone to ask questions, okay? As I said, you can ask questions in Portuguese, in English, and even in Spanish. And we're going to be glad to answer to your questions. And it's so interesting to see this new opportunity because we usually, as you said in the very beginning, we're usually too focused on America, right, or Europe, and we forget that there is this range of scholarships in Asia, and yes, that they use English as a medium of instruction. So it is possible for us to get those scholarships and communicate in English, and even, as you said, brush up in another language. So it's super important, your talk, and opening our eyes to other opportunities abroad that sometimes we don't consider. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniela. And I should mention also, if you don't want to conduct your entire PhD studies in Asia, you might as well apply to an exchange program. There's a wealth of exchange programs, especially in Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Those four Asian tiger nations all have plenty of exchange opportunities. So if you're still looking to the US or Europe, you might want to complement that experience with an exchange in Asia, and that's going to give you a whole new outlook on life as well.
That's
Thank you
sweet.
so much,
That's all.
Daniela, for
Thank
this
you.
opportunity.
Well, let's go. Let's talk to Valentina right now. And then if you have, write down your questions. If you want to ask, if you want to ask extra questions or start asking questions, you can do that. But we're going to have a Q&A by the very end. Ok? Nós teremos um espaço para perguntas e respostas no final. Então, se você ficou interessado em alguma coisa, tem alguma dúvida sobre o que Jesus comentou, manda sua pergunta aqui no chat, tá bom? And now we're going to talk to Valentina, and let me introduce Valentina to you guys. And Valentina is a PhD candidate in education in UC Santa Barbara, California, studying undergraduate writing. She received her bachelor's in letters with a focus in linguistics from the Universidade de Buenos Aires in Argentina, a specialization degree in education policy from the Universidad Torquato di Tella, Argentina too. I'm sorry for my Spanish, Valentina, and her master's in education from UCSB in 2017. From UCSB in 2017, she was awarded the Fulbright from the Ministerio de Educación. She got a scholarship, a Fulbright scholarship from her home country in Argentina to pursue her graduate studies in the US, okay, where she is currently speaking from. Hello, Valentina. Please, the floor is all yours.
Hi, Daniela. Thank you for that presentation. And first, I want to say, never be sorry for speaking a second language. We talked in Spanish a couple of times, and you have great Spanish. And also, again, never be sorry for speaking a second language. I think it's very pertinent for what brings us today. And thank you so much for everyone for putting this space together. It's very important for everyone to know more about other opportunities beyond what we are most used to. So I have a couple of slides. Thank you so much, Mariana. So yes, my name is Valentina, and I'm from Argentina originally. I studied in University of Buenos Aires, and once I graduated, I got a Fulbright scholarship to continue my PhD studies in the US. And I chose UCSB because of the faculty that specializes in writing. That's my area of research. So also, I want to really thank Jesus for that awesome presentation. It was really interesting, and I wasn't aware of those opportunities when I applied for Fulbright. So I'm happy that there's more people now that will be able to take advantage of those opportunities as well. So about me, well, I think that Daniela already said it in the introduction. I just wanted to say that the Fulbright scholarship that I was awarded was a collaboration between Fulbright and the Argentinian Education Ministry. And it was in 2017 when I got the scholarship. And I'm going to kind of tell the story a little bit for you to know how serendipitous can be the process, but also how much kind of work and what are the things that you would want to consider to apply to these opportunities. And some things you'll see that are similar to what Jesus just said, and other things are more specific to the context, which makes sense because it's a application for a scholarship, but every different country, every different scholarship would have its different exigencies. So what are the benefits of getting a Fulbright award? First of all, and I think that was the most important, it guided me through the application process to US universities. I wouldn't have been able to apply by myself to a US university. Back then, I didn't know anyone who was studying in the US. So getting the Fulbright scholarship made it very easy for me to know, okay, what's the next step? So, well, you have to apply by this deadline to the university, then you have to sit for these exams, etc. So that was the most, I think, one of the most important benefits. Then it also covered the exam costs. Back then, the GRE was a requirement. I think that right now, universities are taking that away, but it covered the exam cost of the TOEFL and the GRE, which was great. It didn't cover the preparation, so that's not something that you would want to consider. It also covered the cost of application to 5 universities. So when you're applying to US universities, you have to pay a fee. I think it's around $100 per application, and Fulbright covered the cost of application to 5 of them. If we wanted to apply to more universities, we had to pay them by ourselves. So I just applied to 5. It also covers the visa application costs, which they can get pretty expensive. So that's another advantage of getting the Fulbright award. It paid my flight to the US, and it will pay my flight back to Argentina once I graduate. And it gave me a stipend to cover living expenses. So this is one thing that I'm going to mention afterwards, but the Fulbright scholarship varies from country to country and from program to program. So there's many different programs and many different countries. So I have friends from Chile or from Brazil that they got the Fulbright scholarship, the same that I did, but they had different benefits. So that's something that you would want to look at. But for me, it covered the stipends, to cover the living expenses. And then I was able to participate in one enrichment seminar that they give different options. So you can go to some part of the US and meet with other Fulbrighters and discuss topics. That happens once during your Fulbright program. And then other events more local with other Fulbrighters from the area. And then a really nice benefit of having the Fulbright scholarships is that you start to belong to an international community of Fulbrighters, and you start to meet people that do really interesting work beyond your own profession, your own discipline. And I developed a lot of very great friends from that. So those are the benefits of getting the award. So you know that this opportunity is out there, but how do you need to get ready to apply? So first of all, I think that it's really important to follow Fulbright in social media. If you have social media, that's how I learned about the opportunity that I applied. So I was once scrolling in Facebook and I saw that there was this extraordinary call for applications. So that's how I applied, because usually applications happen in a certain time of the year. And suddenly in Argentina, back in 2016 or 15, Obama went and they did this special treaty. They signed this special treaty that they would give a bunch of more Fulbright scholarships in a different call. So that's how this extraordinary call opened, and that's how I applied. And if I hadn't been in social media, following them in social media, I wouldn't have been able to know that opportunity was out there. So definitely follow Fulbright in social media. You can also connect with Fulbrighters from your home country. there's different like platforms where you can find like Fulbright communities. Like I'm sure that there's like Facebook groups or stuff. There's Fulbrights all around. So you can always connect with them and ask them about their experience. So once you find a call that you want to apply, then you should read the call carefully. So this is like a presentation about writing in English to apply. So, and this is something that I'm going to say along the presentation a lot. Writing is a response to a situation. So the call will give you all the clues that you need to write your application. So read the call carefully, check all the due dates, the requirements, check if you're eligible, and also check what they're asking for, and start building your response based on that. So once you know that you're eligible, once you know that you can meet the deadlines, etc., and that you can meet the basic requirements, start building build relationships with at least 3 relevant people from your profession, from your discipline, that can write you a good letter of recommendation. And I'm talking about like profession and discipline because Fulbright offers a lot of master's scholarships. So for example, there's like a lot of lawyers that go into Fulbright. There's a lot of engineers. You don't necessarily need to want to pursue an academic profession. You can also get a master's to pursue a non-academic profession. But definitely you will need 3 people that can write you a good letter of recommendation. So make sure that you develop those relationships. Research programs and connect with faculty in US universities. And this is something that's very important to be admitted in a US university for a graduate program. And this is something that also Jesús mentioned in his presentation. In the US, you need to know a faculty in the program to be admitted, at least for a PhD program. That's something that I heard from all of my friends here in the US universities. And in the universities that I didn't know any faculty, I didn't get accepted. So make sure that you reach out to the faculty that you would be interested to work with. Make sure to make research on what's their work on, and to tell them how you can contribute to that research, how you can work with them during your PhD to make your contributions. So that's very important. Collect all the documentation needed to prove your experience. And if you are from a public university, if you have your undergraduate studies from a public university, as I had in Argentina, we all know that public universities in Latin America demand a lot of bureaucracy, and sometimes you have to wait like 6 months for a transcript. So with all your grades, so make sure that you start collecting all the documentation. It took me a lot of time to gather all the documentation that's needed to prove my experience. So make sure that you collect all those documentations. Also, what we always recommend is once you have to write something, look for sample of that genre that you're trying to write. So you will have to write genres that you didn't even know that they existed, because they are very connected to the US culture, and every community, every culture has its own genres with their own expectations. So make sure that you Google sample essays and look around what people have done, how they present themselves. That will give you a lot of information of the way that you want to build your story. And then this is another very important thing. You will be asked a sample text that you've written. So in my case, I had a conference proposal that I presented. So that it was in Spanish. So I translated that text. It was a proceedings. It was a published text from a conference. I translated that text into English to present that. But you will have to present a sample text whenever applying to US universities. Okay, so I brought some prompts that were given to me when I was applying to my Fulbright scholarship. So there was an initial application, and then there was an application in English. In the initial application, this was the prompt that I was given. It's in Spanish. The first application for me was in Spanish, but again, Fulbright applications vary from program to program, to country, from call to call. So I just wanted to bring something for you to know what I was asked and to have an idea, but it's basically justifying your academic project, indicating what's the relationship between the program that you selected and your trajectory, explaining the reasons or motivations to study abroad, and what universities have you identified, and what's the impact of your studies. So those were the first. This was the first long text that I had to write, and it was in Spanish. But again, this might change. Okay, and then when I had to apply to the U.S. universities, once I was giving the scholarship, I was asked these questions. So what is my proposed major field of study? What is my specialization? What specific area of the field I wanted to specialize? And then what were my future plans? So once I finished my program, how would that contribute to the country? Okay, and then here are the 2 essay prompts that I was asked to write. This was at the point, again, this was a special call, so the timeline and the timelines might be different, and the moment where if you choose to apply to Fulbright, the time when they are asked for you to write might be different, but this is definitely, if you apply to Fulbright, you're going to have to write these 2 prompts. So there's an essay about your study and your research objectives, and there's a personal statement. And in my case, I remember that it was really hard to kind of find different things to say, because it still needs to be a personal statement where you talk about your research. So what I did was I kind of listed whatever I wanted to say of who I was and my study and my research and my personal goals and how they connected to my research, and I split that information into texts. But make sure that you're not repeating the information, because you have to think about your reader, and your readers are reading 100 of these texts, more than 100. They're reading millions of these texts from people all around the world. So if you're repeating information, they're going to be bored, and they're going to make them not want to read your text. So make sure that you're giving them the information that they need to know you, the exact information, and also in an interesting way. So I can, you feel free to take a screenshot, or I can share these prompts with you later, but I need to move on. So, okay, so these are some tips when you're writing all the application essays, like some general tips, because you'll realize that you have to write the same things, but in different ways. So, but you always want to cover these main ideas. Think about how the learning experience is unique and why it needs to be done in the US. That's very important, because they are funding you to go to the US. You could go anywhere else. So why is it important to go there? Show how you're qualified for that experience and with the programs that you have in mind. Show that you have done research, show involvement in your academic or professional community. How involved are you in the academic professional community? Maybe you attended conferences, maybe you are part of a community of scholars. Show that. Show that you did your research about the program and faculty that you want to go. Make sure that you mention that you know where you want to go. Show that you have a global perspective and that you can represent your country well. That's important, because you're going to be a Fulbrighter from Brazil. Point out how you're going to contribute to your country after finishing the program. That's also very important, and that was actually one of the questions that I got when I went to the in-person interview once I was pre-selected. So that's one thing that you would want to point out. They are making an investment on you. Okay, I'm almost done here. So important considerations. Fulbright benefits vary from country to country and from program to program. So again, read the call carefully. Also, difference to what Jesus was telling us about Asian programs, Fulbright might not cover tuition fees, which means that you might have to find other ways of funding your tuition, and that might be complicated. So just make sure that you see what it covers and ask the faculty in the institution that you want to go to study, how could you cover those tuition fees? Universities tend to have opportunities for students to cover the tuition fees, but you would want to talk about that with your future university and with the professors that you're planning to work in the US. If selected to be a Fulbrighter, you will be given a J1 visa that subjects you to a 2-year home requirement after the program ends. So if you're planning to apply to a US university to establish yourself in the US, maybe Fulbright is not your best opportunity, because you will have to go back to your home country once your program ends for 2 years in order to be able to go back to the US with a work visa, or even if you get married and have kids. Fulbright tells you that you won't be able to waive that requirement. So that's something that you would want to have in mind. And the last thing, that if you're coming to the US with a dependent, you might have to show proof of funding. So if you have a kid, or if you want to come with your husband or wife, you will have to show proof of funding. Probably, I don't know, because that was not my case, but I know of friends that they had to show that they could maintain that person in the US. So those are things that you would want to have in mind. Okay, perfect. That's the last one. I'm sorry it took me a couple of minutes more than the expected ones, but this is a very long thing. And I'm happy to answer any question here. It's my email. So I know that we have a question space, but yeah, feel free to email me if anything comes up, and I will be happy to do my best to help you. Thank you. I think that we're having some technical issues, so Mariana and Daniela will be here soon. So just hang in for a minute, please.
Hello, back again. Okay, thank you, Valentina.
Yeah, thank you.
Mariana had a problem with her internet. Let me see if she's back. Are you back, Mari? Okay. Gabi is here with us. Sorry, everyone. Technical issues, that happens. It's okay, no problem at all. I really would like to thank you for your talk, Valentina. And I was really, we do have questions already here. We're going to answer all the questions by the end. Jose asked a very nice question about how you guys sell yourselves, how you guys have impact texts in order to be selected. And we do have some questions for Jesús as well, and we're going to answer to them all by the end. But I was really interested in how you talked about networking, the importance of networking, the importance of being part of academic community in your country, being in touch with professors abroad that can just vouch for you and accept you in their program. This is something that sometimes we're not really aware of, and we don't understand the importance of going to conferences, attending conferences, talking to people, just being known and getting to network with people, how important that is, because you're going to need this person in a certain time to write a letter for you, a recommendation letter for you, or even just accept you in their program. So that was interesting. I would like to talk about that a bit more by the end. And now I just want to introduce Rony, and we do have questions. We're going to show the questions for you by the end, but we do have a question for you and for Jesús. And I would like to introduce Rony, and just, hello, Rony.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I want to introduce you. I could introduce you in Portuguese, right? But I'm going to keep it in English.
Okay.
And feel free to have your talk in either languages, right? And Rony Ron-Ren, I love talking about this name, guys. I'm sorry. Rony Ron-Ren holds a master's and a PhD degree in language studies from the Pontifical Catholic University of Rio de Janeiro. He's currently a lecturer in linguistics at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. During his academic path, Rony has received a Fulbright scholarship from the Foreign Language Teaching Assistant program to teach Portuguese as an additional language for one academic year at Washington and Lee University. And he also got a Capi Sprint visiting student scholarship, as I also did. That's where we met, to take part of his PhD at the University of California, Santa Barbara for a year as well. Rony has experience in teaching both Portuguese and English as additional languages. Some of his research interests are in the field of applied linguistics, forensic linguistics, very interesting, guys. Get in touch with Rony to know more about that, and interactional linguistics. Rony, be welcomed. The floor is yours. We're eager to hear from you. Thanks for
Thank you
being
so
here.
much, Daniela. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for the invitation. It's really nice to be among friends here and being here and talking about these experiences that I had and being able to know more about the experiences that you're also sharing. My talk's going to be a little bit similar to some of the things that Jesus and Valentina mentioned. I'll be talking about two different experiences that I had. How can I show the slides? Let me see. Oh, okay. All right. So the title of my presentation, my talk here is Studying, Working, Researching in the U.S., Scholarship Opportunities and How to Prepare for Them. So as I mentioned, I had these two different opportunities. I got a Fulbright scholarship after I had just finished my undergraduate program. And just before the pandemic, I got the Capi Sprint, the doctoral sandwich program to study for a year at UCSB, the University of California, Santa Barbara, which united us, right? Dani, Jesus, Valentina, and me. So I'll be talking first about the Fulbright FLTA program, especially the Brazilian case, because this is a worldwide program from Fulbright, but I'll be talking about the Brazilian case. So first of all, it's a scholarship that is sponsored by the U.S. government in order to foster Portuguese language proficiency at the U.S. colleges and universities. Not only Portuguese, but in our case, that's the language. It's important to mention that the grantee might be selected to work as a TA, so basically helping another professor who is teaching different courses on Portuguese language and Portuguese culture. And this person might be helping, for example, with language tables, teaching some classes, and helping grading different types of essays and exercises, or this person can be the sole instructor of Portuguese courses. So the experience, as far as I know, it's quite different from grantee to grantee. I had some friends who were there with me at the FLTA program who had to design a Portuguese course from scratch. So they were the only structure of Portuguese in the whole university. So they had to design the course, they had to call the students, create the courses, and so on and so forth. In my situation, in my experience, I was a TA at the University of Washington and Lee, which is in Virginia, the state of Virginia, and I worked as a TA. So basically, I was in charge of teaching twice a week and the professor would teach the other days. It was an intensive Portuguese course as an additional language for American students. I also had to participate in the Brazilian club. I had to had like some extra hours with the students. I had to help them. I had like office hours to help them study Portuguese, and lots of cultural activities, which is also important to mention that not only are we going to be TAs or instructors, but we also act as cultural ambassadors. So organizing activities at the university to promote different cultural aspects of our country. So in my case, some of the activities I promoted were like a carnival party. I had like a food festival. So back when I was there, it was during the Ciências Sem Fronteiras, the Science Without Borders program. So I had some Brazilian students in the university, and I asked them to help me. So they each cooked a different food, a Brazilian food, and we had like a festival for the other students to know more about Brazilian food. We also had like some discussions. So during the Black History Month, we had a discussion on racism and this false idea that Brazilian is this great melt pot and everything is perfect. We don't have racism. So we discussed that and debunked this myth that some people have. So it was really interesting to get to talk to the students about these experiences as a TA and also as a cultural ambassador. And who can apply? I got here the QR code for the Fulbright website, so I think it's more practical if you need to know more about the website and the program. You just scan the QR code and you're going to be sent to the website. But this is a scholarship that is specific to the students of Letras in Brazil. So you must hold a bachelor's degree in languages. It doesn't have to be English. So I had some friends who studied, for example, Portuguese and literature, Portuguese Latin, Portuguese Spanish. So English is not necessary in terms of your degree, but you do need to have the English, a certain level of English proficiency, because you're going to be studying as well. You also need to be a recent graduate Brazilian teacher. That's important. You need to have finished your undergrad program. And you need to take one of those tests to assess your proficiency level at English. So the TOEFL IBT, the TOEFL ITP, or the IELTS or the Duolingo, which kind of surprised me because back then when I took the test, there were no Duolingo options there. And it's important to mention that before investing your money in one of those exams, it's important to invest your time in trying to understand them, how they work, because each test requires different they have like different types of assessment in terms of language. So they each have their own style. But money-wise, I checked, and Duolingo is the cheapest one. The Duolingo test is around $40 right now, while the others are around $200. A little bit more, a little bit less, but around $200. And so that this is really important. And it's also important to mention that you don't have to be a straight A student to get this scholarship, which is something that Jesus also mentioned in his talk. Because I used to think that these types of scholarships, they were only for like geniuses, you know, they were for students who had done their masters. And I was about to graduate from, I was about to finish my bachelor's degree. So I used to think that I couldn't get this kind of scholarship. Even though I was a good student, I was not like the perfect student. And I didn't have much experience teaching. I had like 2 or 3 years of experience teaching English as an additional language, but had no experience teaching Portuguese. So I thought, this is not for me. But then some of my friends from UFRJ, I studied Letras at UFRJ, and they got the scholarship before. So I was like, okay, so I think it's possible for me as well, because we had like similar backgrounds. So that's important to know. I do think that it's important to have some kind of experience teaching languages, especially languages as a foreign language. It would be nice if you had some experience teaching Portuguese, but it's not mandatory. I didn't have experience teaching Portuguese as an additional language, and I got the scholarship. And what do you need to apply for this program? You need lots of documents. So something that probably everybody here is going to talk about how many documents you need to apply for those things. So especially for the Fulbright one, you need like passport information. You need the score report from the exam, the TOEFL or the Duolingo one. So you choose. You need your academic transcripts. Nowadays, back in my time, the academic transcripts, they had to be sworn translations, which is super expensive, and the scholarship didn't cover that. Nowadays, they are only asking for Portuguese ones, so you don't have to pay for that. You do need 3 letters of recommendation in English. So just like Valentina mentioned, it's really important for you guys, if you're like you're still in the undergrad program, it's really important for you to make connections with professors, with people who might be willing to write letters of recommendation to you in the future, because you want them to really know you and write really nice things about you, so that you have a stronger application. You need to submit a 30-second video clip in English explaining why you want to be an FLTA. You need to fill out a long application form online. It's really long with lots of details. You need to submit a CV in English. And you need to write 3 types of essays. You need to write one that is objectives and motivation. This one, according to the Fulbright program, is an essay that you need to write, a long one, addressing your background, your qualifications to be part of the FLTA program. You need to mention some of your past experiences that have been formative in your personal development. You need to state the reasons for applying to the program, and you need to mention how being an FLTA will assist you in your long-term career goals. Okay, the teaching methodology and sharing your culture, they are meant to be like shorter essays. So the teaching methodology, you have basically to answer the question, how would you teach if you were selected to the program? So what kind of techniques and what kind of methodology would you use, and why so? And the last one, you have to answer the question, which is, what does it mean to be a cultural ambassador, and how would you share your culture in this university? So here we have lots of different types of text, right? So we have like this short text for the video, because since it's a 30-second one, you do need to plan ahead. It's very hard to just improvise. So it's a short text, but with features of spoken discourse that you do need to write. You need to know how to write your resume in English. You need to know how to write a more academic type of essay to talk about methodologies, techniques, culture, and another one that is more personal. And as Valentina mentioned, these essays, they are not so, I would say that they are not so common in our culture. At least when I had to write the objectives and motivation one, I didn't know much about how to sell myself and what to say in order to get selected, so it's hard sometimes. So some of my tips for this scholarship, first of all, based on the huge amount of documents and materials that you have to submit, you have to plan ahead. So I started preparing 1 year in advance for this scholarship. So you do need to plan ahead for the documents. You need to plan for the letters of recommendation, because you need to think who you're going to invite, if this professor is going to accept the invitation. In my case, I had to send like several emails to remind them that they needed to write the letter of recommendation. So you don't want to give them like a week or 2 weeks before the deadline to submit that. And you also don't want to lose the application process because someone didn't send the letter of recommendation. The English proficiency exam also, you need to do this beforehand. All of them, they have like a 2-year valid time. So if you had taken one of those before, you do need to check if you need to take it again or not. And also knowing the features of the discourse genres that are required in this process is paramount. So some of my tips are similar to the Valentina one. So look for reliable templates on the internet, examples of people who maybe posted online some of their essays. Talk to people who have been selected before. So if you want to talk to me, I'm always open. I have helped some people before who got into the program. I'm more than willing to help again. Do not assume the writing, for example, CV in English is just a simple translation of your resume in Portuguese. Some people think it's just a translation process, but it's not. You have to adapt to the culture, to what is expected in the American situation, right? So it's not simply a translation process. It's important to write the essays well in advance. In my case, I started writing mine like 2 months before. I asked like 3 different people that I trusted to give me honest feedback, not just a pat on the back, but really, really honest feedback. I also asked them to proofread my essays as well, and that helped me a lot. And after this process, I revised the essays thoroughly, and I think I did really well essays, really good essays to submit. In terms of, I forgot to mention, after the whole process application, you do have an interview in Portuguese in my case. I don't know if they're still doing it in Portuguese, but I had like an interview in Portuguese talking about my previous experiences and how it would be important for me to be an FLTA and how I could contribute to the program, the changes that I could develop in terms of teaching and in the university and so on and so forth. So the CAP Sprint is another scholarship that I got, and this time I was about to finish my PhD program. So the CAP Sprint is a program to foster. It's a quite recent program from CAPS, and it's intended to foster the internationalization of academic programs that are financed by CAPS, by the Brazilian Ministry of Education. So who can apply, right? So each university has its own set of guidelines to select the PhD students for the doctoral sandwich program. So the doctoral sandwich program is basically a program in which you start your PhD in Brazil, you finish it in Brazil, but then for 6 months to a year, you can study abroad. So it's important, if that's your case, if you're a PhD student, it's really important for you to look for information on your post-graduation program, because they each have their own guidelines to select students, they have their specific programs and etc. But I would say that they probably have some things in common. Probably, I'm assuming here that you must, these things are like common to all of them. You must have taken the required courses for from the PhD. You must have finished your credits from the PhD program. You must have had your PhD qualification, and you do need to show them that you are at some level proficient in English by taking the TOEFL, the IELTS, or one of the Cambridge exams like the CAE or the CP. You need lots of documents again, some of them for the Brazilian University, for CAPS. And after I applied, I also needed to send lots of different documents for the American University. And each university there is going to require different things. So it depends on the universities. Something that probably you must do is to email your future supervisor abroad. Sometimes when you have an advisor who know another advisor abroad, maybe your advisor can be the link between you and your future advisor. But in my case, I had to email different supervisors. And then I had to explain to them who I was and the reason I was contacting them, what I was doing in terms of research, what I was looking for, and why I would be choosing them, what I would be doing in the university, and etc. In my case, and I think it's probably similar to other cases, this supervisor who accepted me, he asked me to send him a research proposal, like around 5 pages. So I had to write a simple research proposal to send to him so he could assess the possibility of being my supervisor for a year there. And similar to Valentina's situation, I sent this email to 3 different supervisors, and I got accepted by 2. And the 2 supervisors that accepted me were the ones that I knew beforehand. So I do think, just corroborating what she said, it's really important to have good network and get to know people that are abroad, and maybe even especially nowadays when we have the like virtual events, it's really important to have this kind of network and get to know them, talk to them, send emails, and this can help a lot. Wow. Okay, so I think that's it for now. If you have any questions, I'll be more than willing and more than happy to answer them. This is my email. If you need any other information, if you would like to know more and talk to me, just send me an email, and I'll be happy to help anyone who is trying to get one of those scholarships. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your talk. And you brought like a new perspective for those who are taking the letters course, Letras, right? A professional scholarship, which is very interesting. And I really liked that you mentioned that you don't need to be like
perfect student.
Yeah, because sometimes we have this view like, no, I need to be perfect, my English needs to be perfect, I need to have like straight A's, and it's not really like that. You need to be bold. You need to try, right? So awesome.
Perseverance. You have to have lots of stamina.
Yeah, and that we do. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna invite Thiago to come to the floor. Our last presentation, there's a saying, last but not the least, right? Is that a saying? An awesome presentation talking about now opportunities in Europe, right? Because wow, that's amazing. And let me introduce Thiago. I'm very fond of Thiago. He's a very good friend of mine. And I would like you guys to get to know him. He's a researcher of international linguistics and cognitive linguistics. He's currently an associate professor at Universidade Federal de Lavras, UFLA, where we met, in Minas, Brazil, and he works in the Department of Language Studies. At present, Thiago has been conducting researches on narrative sequences and token interaction and in an embodied perspective. I'm sorry. And here it is, Thiago's turn. Europe. I want to know all about that. Just start telling us all about that, Thiago.
Oh my gosh. Okay. First of all, if I'm too nervous to talk to so many people, sorry for that. Sometimes I get really, really, nervous. But let me see if I'm sharing my screen. Okay, I think it's working. So first of all, Dani, thanks a lot for inviting me, for this roundtable. It's been really interesting, to listen to the other guys, experiences. Yeah, so I think it's a nice opportunity to broaden our network, academic network, and maybe think about cooperations for the future, so we can enjoy every chance to start new cooperations, new projects together. So yeah. So guys, as Dani said, I am professor, or I am just Thiago, in my presentation. So as you can see, I'm going to talk about maybe academic rights in international experiences. So since I was since I was invited for this talk and I saw the title, like writing for scholarships application, I was like, okay, what can I tell or share about my experience and my writing, experience. So to begin with, I don't know if I take so much time to like talking about myself, like introducing myself, as everybody knows me now. So, and then I'm gonna briefly talk about Viadrina International Program for Graduates, the VIP, and the Worldwide Universities Network. They have like at least the second one, like the WUN, the Worldwide Universities Network, is a bit different from the other guys here programs, but the Viadrina one is like a bit similar to Fulbright, program. But okay, let me just move and then I can explain you. So just as I was about to introduce myself. So who are you, all creatures? So as Dani said, I am Professor Thiago, and I consider myself, and I work as a cognitive and interactional linguist, and I work at the Federal University of Lavras at the Language Studies Department, specifically the English area. And as she said, I hold my PhD. I got my PhD from UFMG, so during this experience of tracking my PhD experience at the Federal University of Minas Gerais, I got those scholarships, one from the VIP program and the other from the WUM program. So I'm gonna focus on these two, and then that's why I won't take so much time in talking about the other diplomas. So let's focus on the Viadrina International Program for Graduates. So you may wonder, Thiago, so tell us, what is the VIP program? So this is it is a program that was designed by the Viadrina University, in a cooperation with the DAD, the German Academic Exchange Service. It's like our CAPES in Brazil, so it's the same thing. And they offer PhD students and postdocs students, of the European University, Viadrina, this opportunity to have this exchange to other countries. But also they offer this opportunity to international PhD students. So that's why I got the scholarship. But to be really honest, it was like by chance that I got to know about this scholarship, because I was like, it was in a sunny day when I was checking my inbox mail. I received this email from my advisor explaining me the existence of this program, and it was a fortunate, piece of news, because one of the great researchers in interactional linguistics and gesture studies, I got to know that this professor was part of the faculty, at this university. I mean, at Viadrina. So that's why I tried to apply. I applied indeed for the scholarship. So and one of the aims of this scholarship was specifically to develop, the career profile and academic skills, of the applicants. And you may wonder, Thiago, what does the VIP program offer? So the mobility support for international PhD students. I'm sorry, guys, for the motorcycle, noise. It's just because my neighbor is just leaving to go to his classes. Also, great inclusion, international research context and discourse, international networking. So one of the main focus, to be honest, when we think about the VIP program, is just to foster, this international networking, and because when I experienced this scholarship, indeed, I had so many opportunities to, talk to many researchers from all over, the world, and one of the, I think it was Valentina who said that, for example, Fulbright expects, the applicants to return some contributions to their home countries or hometowns or home institutions. And one of the focus or objectives of this program was like establish these networkings and start cooperations, between institutions. That's why they focus much more in this international or academic networking. Also, it was one of the objectives, like raising the number of international PhD students attending the Viadrina. And it was super interesting during my stay there, because we had like these national days. And at the time, it was fun because Michel Teló's, song was like the top 5 in the world. And then we had to, how can I say that, represent Brazil, with these cultural events. And then I had to dance and sing that song that I do not remember right now the name. I just remember in English, because we were like, telling jokes and make fun of that, like delicious, delicious, this way you're gonna tell me. I se te pego. Thank you, Rony. And the opportunity to participate in the research fields of the Viadrina. So even though the focus was on this international and academic network, certainly we had opportunities to take some workshops and courses to develop our academic skills, writing skills, so that indeed we, before getting at the Viadrina University, we needed to enroll in some of these workshops and courses. Unfortunately, I missed some of the deadlines, and then I took part in what they called Fortes Colloquium. It's like some research group meetings in which we had like PhD students, and they could, appreciate your, or in this case, my research proposal and some of the data I present to them during these meetings. And this is just a screen print from the website. So my objective in sharing with you these little paragraph is like it was like one of my first experiences in academic writing. Like I needed to describe my research in simple words and present my research focus to you. And then, as you can see, my period of stay there was like about 30 or 4 weeks or 30 days, and introducing my home institution and also presenting my guest institution. And then you may wonder, what was the role of academic writing in all this? Certainly, as I think it was Valentina's and also Rony, who said that we have these academic genres in which, for example, for me, the letter of motivation or personal statement was something new for me. So and I needed to Google some samples, to get to know the structure of the text or the arguments I could use, just to sell myself. And then just answering one of your questions, I wasn't used to be really honest. I consider, okay, it's not like humble, but I consider myself really, really, humble. So for me, it was really strange to focus on my academic skills, like all my strengths and capabilities, to convince them that I could be the best candidate for the vacancy or for the scholarship. So for me, it was something really different, like describe all my successful deeds in order to get the scholarship. So for me, I don't know if it's a cultural, but I can assure you that it's not the mongrel, complexity, o complexo de vira-lata, não era isso. But I was like, I had some difficulties to show and explain my strengths, So it was really interesting for me. It was an interesting intercultural, experience. Like see what the culture, expects, or the guest or home culture, Thiago. No, it's not the home culture, but the target. Let's say the target culture was expecting me, to tell about myself. And then the summary of my PhD project, it was like just a simple summary of what I was researching, and finally a detailed time schedule of my research stay and activities I was supposed to develop during my stay. So it seems like these Fulbright scholarships, so I could negotiate and start the whole process directly with the institution, I mean with the university. And I needed also to get a recommendation, not a recommendation, but an invitation letter from a potential supervisor. And then, as I said in the beginning, I got to know that one of these references, in my research field was there, like Professor Cornelia Müller. I wrote her an email. Maybe I forgot to add there, formal emails are part of these academic writing too. So I needed to introduce myself and tell her that I was interested or I was involved in this application process. And I needed an invitation from the guest institution. So she was really open to write these letters and inviting me and explain the institution that it was a great opportunity to me, in order to foster and develop my academic skills and the techniques that we use in this case, for example, to analyze and describe gestures and interaction. So as you can see there, Thiago, what if I am interested in applying for this Viadrina program? Well, you just need to go online and access the university's website, or simply if you Google VIP Viadrina program, you find it, online. And as I took some notes here. Indeed, to be really honest, I had no need to certify my language proficiency. So certainly they expect you to speak at least an intermediate, upper intermediate English. Indeed, we have like these bilingual programs, so you can take some German classes too when you get there. It's like a 3 week German course, but it's something really, really, basic, but it's really useful, when you have to buy some bread and eat something, or simply go around the city. And indeed, I took 100% of my experience there. I mean, within the university or in the university was like in English, and they are also in this process of internationalization too. That's why they, support this exchange program. So it was indeed an interesting experience, an amazing one. And as you can see there, as I marked, we have the call for applications ends only in January next year. So if you're really interested, the first thing you need to do is go online, see the knowledge fields or research fields that you can fit, in, or you can fit in, and then you can simply pick one name and write to the person. I mean, write to the potential. Wow, 1 minute. I speak so much. And finally, too much. I mean, finally, we have the WUN one, the Worldwide Universities Network. This one, guys, is more focused on your research group if you belong to one. In my experience, for example, my advisor, Professor Ulrike, was the one who prepared the proposal. I mean, she was the one who wrote the project. Research, and then she invited her advisees like me and the other PhD students to join the research team. But what is the WUN, guys? It is a leading global higher education and research network that involves 24 universities across the continent. And it brings together major universities to sit in widely diverse geographical and cultural contexts, forming a partnership that brings unparalleled richness of talents and resources to bear on major research problems. What does it mean? They get together, research teams from different institutions to develop or conduct researches on the following, topics like climate change, public health, global higher education, and research and understanding cultures. Since I myself was conducting an intercultural communication research, my PhD research covered, but met these understanding culture, requirements. So what does this program provide? So fostering distinctive international research collaborations. They nurture research talents, particularly in early career, let's say experience, let's this way. They also promote the development of global citizens through target program for undergraduates, and especially they focus on building partnerships with relevant national and international bodies. So one thing that Valentina said during her talk was like joining this academic community. So one of the focus or aims of this program was like create and or start and support, cooperations among or between institutions, and then they started this exchange of researchers. So we received, for example, some researchers here in Brazil. I mean, at UFMG, and then we developed some academic activities like workshops. Some researchers taught some disciplines, and then during the following month, we Brazilians, we went to some countries like Italy and England, and then we promoted some conferences and also taught some disciplines and conducted some workshops, in order to not only share our skills and techniques, but also teach them some cultural stuff and certainly learn from them too. What else? Once again, what were the genres, or academic genres involved during this process of application and competition? I mean, to get the grant for the cooperation. I needed to structure. I needed to prepare my curriculum vitae, my international curriculum vitae. I also needed to prepare a summary of my PhD project, and certainly when I say formal emails, unlike the VIP program, when I was Ulrike advisee, I worked like a secretary, getting in contact with some other professors from other universities, and then like inviting them and convincing them to join our research team in order to apply for this grant, apply for this funding program. So nowadays, for example, it was like in 2018. Nowadays, we could, how can I say that? We could strengthen our network, our cooperation with the other universities, like University of Leeds, University of Alberta, University of Sheffield, and UFMG. Nowadays, we have this research group called ICMI, so International Communication in Multimodal Interactions. And since I hold a position at UFLA, now this network, broadened or expanded, and then we are like 6, if I'm not mistaken, institutions involved in this cooperation so far. So I brought you some pictures, some memories when I participated, when I got my VIP scholarship. So as you can see there, we have this group, and they are from, believe me, from all over the world. So from United States, from Asia, from other continents, and it was indeed an amazing intercultural experience. And here I brought you some of my. Okay, I need to show you that I really worked there. So I also answered telephone too. Okay, but since we do not live only from researching, I had my moments to drink some beer because I was in the beer land, Germany. So I could make my my network with other people. But during these fun moments, during VOOM, as you can see, as I said, we promoted, some courses, some academic events. So it was like the conference we organized, and certainly we could have our relaxing moment. So as you can see, there we have the team like Professor Elisabetta from University of Leeds, Professor Jennifer, I always forget the last names, but she's from University of Alberta from Canada. There is Professor Mileni from Potsdam University from Germany, and Professor, oh my gosh, Paul from University of Sheffield, and certainly me and Professor Ulrike from UFMG. And yeah, Dani. So you mentioned Bianca Dorotea. Yes, from I had some contacts with her too. And this is it, guys. Thank you for your attention. I hope not to be so I don't know, confusing my talk, just because I was like really nervous. But this is it.
It was amazing. It was amazing. I couldn't expect any less from you. I loved the pictures. I loved it all. It was amazing. And it was super interesting that you talked about the importance of highlighting your skills and how that was hard for you because it's not part of our culture. And we were discussing here in our group about other people mentioned that about this writing technique. There was a person that asked about that, how we have to sell ourselves and the expectation of other cultures, what they expect from us. How can we talk about our soft skills and hard skills? So that was really interesting. Thank you, Thiago. And now I would like to welcome you guys to answer the questions. We had lots of questions. We won't be able to answer them all because we're advanced in time, but there is a question for Jesus. He's been waiting to answer this question. So Henrique asked, he would like to ask Jesus, what does the ideal curriculum vitae looks like before we're applying to a doctoral postgraduate position? Having published papers at the undergrad or master's level, is it relevant? So we have questions for all of you guys.
Thank you very much. And again, really exciting presentations, lots of informative talks. Yeah, really interesting. And thank you, Enrique, for your question as well. I think that's the $1 million question. What should the ideal CV look like for application? I think there's nothing like an ideal CV. You really need to adjust it, fine tune it to the specific opportunities that you want to apply for. Something I definitely believe it's important is for you to take a look at the PhD supervisor CV, see what he or she is doing at the moment, try and engage your proposal with something that your potential supervisor is working on. And yes, publication can be important. It can give you an advantage, but I should stress it's not mandatory. It's not a prerequisite for you to apply to one of these programs. Quite often you're able to show academic attitude through other types of products, of academic products. For example, participating in conferences, your own thesis at the MA or undergrad. All of those are evidences that throughout your academic development, you have shown that type of attitude. And I should also stress some of the points that Thiago, Valentina, and Rony were making about how important it is to know how to sell yourself. Sell yourself. That's a metaphor. And in the group, we were talking about how we as Latin Americans tend to be too low profile sometimes, whereas other cultures are trained in selling themselves, making a strong case for themselves. We are culturally taught to be very humble. And I would connect that with one of the points I was making earlier about professional communication. How the way you write emails, the way you respond to interviews, the way you present yourself makes a huge difference, even as important as the actual academic writing evidence that you might have. So yeah, definitely give it a go. Insist till you get it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesus. I know that you gotta go. And I just want to stress because we heard here a lot about not only writing skills, academic skills, but also professional skills, right? And trying to balance both. And this is very interesting because sometimes we don't value that much the professional skills of knowing how to write a good email, knowing how to network with people, connect with people, be there, be seen, right? So thank you for that. And there's another question. I think we can take two more questions, right? I know that Jesus
Just before I leave,
already
thank you so much, Daniela. This
needs
has
to
been an
go.
amazing opportunity. I'm really looking forward to future get-togethers.
Yeah.
Greetings to everyone in Brazil and to everyone in Latin America. Take care.
Thank you, Jesus. Bye-bye. And we have questions for Valentina, for Rony, for Thiago. I think we can take one or two more questions, right? Vinicius asked, how much time in advance do you guys recommend to start preparing the essays? I think we could all answer to that. What do you think, Valentina? How long before, like how did you prepare for essays?
So that's a great question. As soon as you have the call, you should start preparing your essay. And it's not about just like sitting down and writing the actual essay, but just taking notes and paying attention to what it's being asked. And again, every call will ask for different things. So, for example, Ronnie's call for a language teaching assistant was not the same than my call for a PhD scholarship, even though they were both Fulbright scholarships. So, as soon as you have the call that you want to apply, go through the call and underline what they're asking for. And that's when you will start writing. And writing, it's like taking notes, starting to building ideas on how your experience relates and how you can respond to that call successfully. But yeah, as soon as possible, as soon as you have the prompt.
I think Thiago was gonna add something. Rony, go on.
Okay, so just because after Valentina said that, it reminded me of her presentation when she mentioned about creativity. So I was also thinking about that because sometimes after we build up the notes and we know what to say, kinda, and we have kind of the structure, the outline of our essays. Sometimes we don't take into consideration that we need to be creative, in order to be chosen sometimes. So, and then creativity, we don't have it's hard to have a deadline for creativity, so it's important for people as well to bear in mind that sometimes we just need to, sometimes while you are walking, you think about a creative way to sell yourself. I remember that for the Fulbright essay, for the objectives and mission and etc., I talked about Isaac Newton and about one of the laws from physics and how it would relate, because the thing that the law of motion, so things that are moving, they keep moving, and if you're at rest, you tend to keep at rest. So I use this idea, which is far different from languages or linguistics, but then I use that as a metaphor to say, so I kept moving, all my life, so that's why I need to keep moving, and I want to have this Fulbright scholarship, because just like Isaac Newton said, I know he was talking about objects and things, but in my life, I need to move on as well, and I'm in motion and etc. And I thought it was a really interesting idea to say something that it was so different from what I think people would expect, and start my essay in this way, talking about physics and the law of motion, to just connect to the idea of you need to keep moving, and I'm eager to try this new opportunity. But that takes time, because this idea don't come just by thinking too hard and just planning. So it's important to plan ahead. At least for me, I kind of planned for 2 or 3 months, planned and wrote and asked for people to give me feedback and etc. But if you're on if you have a tight schedule, the creativity process might not work as well as if you take your time to think and develop and have time to just go the extra mile,
Nice. Thank you, Rony. Thiago, do you want to add something? Or
Yeah. I was simply wondering because you guys had this experience with Fulbright, and then you had to write your essays and stuff. But I was like thinking about my own experience, with these European scholarships, and uh, yeah, just considering my letter of motivation, the rest was like I didn't need to sell myself. But when I was like thinking about my motivation letter, the thing was, I don't know if my piece of advice is really, really good, but I am completely mad. So when I was like preparing my motivation letter, I was thinking about my identity. So maybe one thing is like, okay, I need to apply for this whole process. I know that the culture demands from me a sort of image, a sort of behavior, like what pieces of information are necessary, to include in these texts. But since you, Dani, you said English as lingua franca, or maybe if we take into consideration English as international language or lingua franca, or if you think about the concept of translanguaging, I think it's really important to keep and maintain our identities when we write, essays, or when we sell ourselves. What I mean is we need to singularize, or particularize, let's say so, our letters. And creativity, as Rony said, creativity is the key, and since you are creative and then you use, your own, I don't know, your own characteristics to particularize your essay, I think could be a nice try. That's why I say I don't know if it's really, useful, this piece of advice.
of course it
But
is.
yeah, I don't know, because I know how strict, um North Americans are when it comes to be, like write an essay and to like being creative. I don't know. Just because of these, intercultural experiences, sometimes we can make a gaffe. So that's why I am the king of, intercultural gaps. So
No, but I think it's good. And that's why I want to put we all together because we're from different backgrounds and we have different perspectives, right? I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that the way that Valentina had to write for her Fulbright program was different from Rony's, which is different from you, from the program that it took part in. So I think it's nice for us to see all these possibilities that are here, even the Asian scholarships that Jesus was talking about, so we can adapt, understand what people expect from each of those contexts, so I can not lose my identity, because I really believe it's very important for us to keep our identity and have this uniqueness, but also to be very intentional in the way that we write,
yeah,
so I can just show my identity, but show people that I understand the rules of the game, that I
good.
understand the rhetorical moves that are required for each of the contexts. So know the norm, know the system, so you can subvert them in a way. I don't know if it makes sense,
Yeah,
right?
it made certainly.
So that's the idea. I think we have one more question for Valentina, but we all can talk about that. And then we're wrapping up because it's almost 2 hours of our talk. It's so good that we're here, but we don't feel the time, but times it has passed by. And we have a question for Valentina. What do you think is the best? It was Enrique's question. What do you think is the best way to establish a good relation with U.S. faculty or even the European faculty, right? How to approach them, how to convince them to get their attention? Is email a good channel? That's what we're talking about, how to be known, how to be seen. And I think that we all can talk about that as well.
Yes, that's a great question. And I feel that it's tied to what we have been talking so far about how for Latin Americans, we are like very humble. So it's hard to sell ourselves or to think that we're good enough to be in some places that are very idealized. And the reality is that when you go to those places, you realize that you're an excellent candidate and that you're as competitive as any of your peers, and that Latin American education is like amazing. So, and I'm starting to say this because like if it's hard for ourselves to sell ourselves with like peers, it's of course harder to imagine ourselves approaching to an expert, a person that we have been reading, that we know a lot about them from the theory. The reality is that in US universities, faculties need to have PhD students. They need you because that enriches their perspectives and their curriculums and their trajectory. And actually having people like so it's real that some faculty don't care about working with international students, but it's also true that many faculty know the advantages that thinking and writing and working with international perspectives, with international students, is very enriching. So I want to encourage you all to go on the internet, look for that scholar that you've been reading a lot from that other country, reach out to them if you're interested in working with them, ask them like, I read your theory, I'm reading your literature a lot, I would really like to continue my education with you. Is there like, this is who I am, present yourself, is there any opportunity? Or like you can also on the side see for opportunities of scholarships in that country and tell them, I've seen that there's this Fulbright opportunity. If I eventually get that scholarship, would you be willing to like mentor me or advise me? And what's first good is to introduce yourself and to say who you are and how you can contribute to their work. And then you might, like, I schedule Zoom calls with many faculties around the US. Other people didn't reply to my email, which is fine, which shows that they were not interested in me. So probably I wouldn't want to be working with them if they really didn't care about me. So that's fine. But other people respond. And so we scheduled Zoom talks. We talked about our interest and how could I work with them there. And then that's how you start building a relationship. Ideally, it would be to approach them in conferences, but we know that international conferences where these people go are very expensive for us. So an email, and now we have Zoom, so just email them, tell them who you are, ask them for a Zoom meeting, and build the relationship in that way. And again, it's an enriching experience for the faculty as well. They're not making you a favor, you're making them a favor as well. So it's like a win-win situation. Don't feel that you're there being saved, because that's not true. You're actually giving a lot.
Definitely. It's a win-win situation. I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Rony, you were saying something?
Yeah, I would just like to add another tip, maybe, because while I was in the PhD, I discovered academic Twitter. I didn't know that Twitter. I know that Twitter, we don't know if it's gonna keep on because of the whole Elon Musk situation, but I didn't know there was like people who use Twitter just for academic purposes. And actually, there, at least in my area, which is conversation analysis, there are lots of professors on Twitter tweeting about their research and talking about opportunities and sharing their work. So it's a way, a more like personal, less formal way to approach a professor, because you are seen there. He can like in my case, I created a professional Twitter, so just for academic purposes, just to follow people from my area and the areas that I'm interested in. And I approached some people on the DMs, which is like kind of different, but it was not to request like an exchange program, but it was a way to network. And maybe later, if I needed something, it would be an easier path, an easier way to talk to them. So that's another way besides the email. You can get to know the professors, retweet their things, and maybe send them a DM asking for like a paper, or telling them how much you like to read them or to use them as a source, as material, etc. And then one day, who knows, you can get to study with this person.
Sweet, sweet. Thiago, do you want to add something to that?
I was mute. There was a moment that I realized I was like talking as a parrot, and then my microphone was mute. But to be really honest, first of all, a piece of advice is like being courageous. When I was in my PhD, experience during my PhD course, it was funny because my advisor said. She used to say that I was the public relations of the group because I didn't care. I simply, picked the name of the researcher I would like to talk to, and then I wrote emails. So certainly,
I wonder why.
I need to be. Yeah,
I wonder why you were the public relation person of public relations.
Exactly. And then when something that I was about to say Rony. Yeah, Rony. Something that Rony said is like, there is this, academic Twitter, but it was like thinking about professors are not gods. They're humans. So we can talk to them. We simply, drop some lines and say, well, this is me. I research that. I'd like to get in contact. I don't know, let's book or schedule a moment, So this is one thing. So for you guys who are watching us, maybe you are in your master's, in your PhD courses. My piece of advice is be poker faces, like sejam caras de pau. Sometimes scholarships do not fall from the sky. So only my case, because I received this email from my advisor, but most part of the time you have to run after these opportunities and simply write an email.
Yeah.
This is it.
You gotta pursue it, right? You gotta really go for it. Yeah, that was awesome. And just for us to wrap up, I had a very simple slide to show, but I can tell you guys, for those who are from USP, we have a website called Mundus, with an U, Mundus, in which we have all the calls, and people sometimes don't know that. So you can access this website, and they have all the calls that Valentina, Rony, Thiago was talking about. We also have Santander scholarships. You can check from time to time. They also have lots of opportunities for all of us. And that's it. We're wrapping up our talk. We're wrapping up our roundtable. I don't have words to thank you guys for being here with us today in this event in which we celebrate LAC's anniversary, 10th anniversary. We're going to have more events like that. So you had the emails of everyone here. If you want to just get in touch with us, ask more questions. If we didn't answer to your question and you'd like to know more, please do email us. It's going to be a pleasure to have you here, to receive your email and to get in touch with you. Valentina also brought a nice website talking about career, which is UCSB's Explore Grad School. I'm going to make it available for you guys. I'm going to ask Mari to make it available in the chat, and we can just email that to you after when we email the certificates. So thank you, Thiago. Thank you, Rony. Thank you, Valentina, for being here. And I hope that you guys could enjoy this talk, enjoy this roundtable, and get lots of info to be bold, to get ready, and to apply for those scholarships, okay? That's it, guys. I don't know if you want to say something like have a final remark, but I thank you all for being here.
My final remark is like, thank you for being with amazing guys. If I said the professors are not gods, but come on, you are gods and goddesses too. So it was really, really cool to be with you guys. And once again, Dani, thank you for the invitation. This is an amazing opportunity, not only for us, but especially for the students, the PhD students and master students. So this is it. And it was an honor to be with Rony and Valentina and Jesus.
And Jesus, right? Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to thank you all again. And also to say that everybody can get those scholarships. You just need to persevere and plan ahead, but it's possible for everyone. We gave now like some of the pathways, and we hope that people like go abroad and experience that, especially receiving money from the government, like, because it's important, right, to study and also to receive those grants. We need to explore the potentials that we have and the money that the governments are trying to give us to study as well. And thank you again. It was such a pleasure to talk to the people from this event and to hear more, to learn more from you. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to echo everyone's ideas. These scholarships are out there. You don't have to be Einstein to get them. Like, we all got them. We're normal people. So just, it takes dedication. It takes a lot of luck also, just chances. Like Thiago was saying, I was scrolling through a Facebook page as well. So just go out there, be open to what there is, and yeah, insist. That's all that I have to say. And thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share our experiences.
Okay, with that, we finish our event. Thank you, everyone. Pay attention to LAC's webpage. We have a webpage on Instagram in which we post all those events. And I see you guys in the next event. That's it. Bye-bye. Bye.